So one thing I knew I had to come back and talk about when it comes to Doug Bowser's interviews while he talked about the Switch 2 in last week was going to be this whole variable pricing fiasco, because this gets very, very predatory. Like, this will slide into a slippery slope of predatory practice that we have yet to see from the gaming community, like this, from the game within video games or the industry. And this may actually lead us right back to where we were, I believe, back in 2019, 2018 with microtransactions within video games, where we almost got microtransactions regulated within video games. I don't know what happened with that, but I wish we would have went through with it, man. I would have loved to have had microtransactions in video games regulated by the government, because at this point we're really getting to the point to where I'm pretty sure the government is going to start to step in and bring in some kind of regulation, because we go through this shit like yearly. Every year we go through this shit. Now, video games is at the lowest of the totem poles when it, besides how they can probably get their hands on a little bit of the money that video games is making. I'm pretty sure video games is at the lowest totem pole of the issues that the government, at least in America, is worried about, because there are already countries where these types of predatory practices are already regulated against. But let's go ahead and get into what Doug Bowser had to say, and then I'll give a little bit of my thoughts and we'll close out this video. So he says, what you see right there is variable pricing, Bowser told the Washington Post. We'll look at each game, really look at the development that's gone into the game, the breadth and depth of the gameplay, if you will, the durability over time, I don't understand what that's supposed to mean, and the repeatability of gameplay experiences. Those are all factors, and there's many more that go into consideration of what is the right price point for the game. So I think you can anticipate that there will be variable pricing, and we haven't set a benchmark. Meaning, in other words, really, there's no upper limit or no lower limit to what they're going to charge. However, let's be fair, there is no benchmark most likely means that the pricing can go up for each individual game. In other words, if Nintendo decides to create their very own GTA-like, we'll call it that, their very own GTA-like, we'll probably wind up paying $90 for that. So if they had like a GTA like in the chamber for the future of the Switch 2, especially if they're not expecting to get a version of GTA 6 on their console, we should expect to probably pay about $100 for that. And this goes for, like I told you guys last time, Smash Ultimate 2 or Smash Ultimate Hyper HD Remake or Hyper HD Remaster. This goes for Kid Icarus Uprising Remake or Kid Icarus Uprising Sequel, Uprising 2 in HD Remake, which would be like the remake would come before 2, $100 or $80, $90, $100 for both of those games. Because they're jam-packed with content, which is one of the variables that he implicates here to affect the pricing of Nintendo Switch 2 games. Now, why is this predatory? Much like everything else Nintendo is doing with this fucking console, like you got a button is paywalled on the console and people are defending this shit. But anyways, why is this predatory? Because once Nintendo starts to do this, everyone will start to do it, which isn't predatory in a sense. I get that. However, what makes it predatory is that with all of these pushes for Nintendo to catch up with Sony and Microsoft when it comes to their online features and having their console be seen as the de facto, hey, this is where I go to play my games online with my friends, Nintendo's pushes to catch up with them is only going to carry in tow the issues that we have with Sony and Microsoft when it comes to these big titles and these releases, where microtransactions will also be featured with the entry fee of the now $80 to play the high-end games on these consoles. And also, this is also being left in the hands of Nintendo themselves. There's no one to regulate that the pricing should be this for that, the pricing should be this for that, and the value of this for gamers is probably about this, because understand, with this pricing model would have to entail that there's someone somewhere, which there's a possibility this already happens, that they would have to play the game in full totality and look at it in an objective lens, which is what the review community, which is what the reviewers in the industry are supposed to fucking be doing, even though you can't trust them either. So it's a fucking predatory. It's like a perfect psychological predatory feedback loop. That's exactly what this shit is. Because we'll get lied to by reviewers, not here on YouTube, but official ones like IGN will get lied to by reviewers because of this reason. I want this game to be successful. I'm going to pretend like the game is perfect. I'm looking at you, The Last of Us fucking part 2. My bad, guys. My bad. I hate that fucking game. Anyways, these predatory practices are going to come into the predatory nature of this is going to come in tow with all of the bullshit that we already deal with when it comes to, hey, this game is great, even though it's really not. And then this is also going to come in tow with Nintendo being able to determine this for themselves, because there's no one or no resources of objectivity to where the pricing of these games. Now, this could be a new market, though. The pricing of these games are actually determined by people who don't have a hand in ensuring that Nintendo makes the most money possible off of these fucking video games, which ensures that Sony and Microsoft are most likely going to start to adopt, even if they don't do it this generation, with PS6 and whatever the next Xbox will be, they will adopt these practices in the future. And thus, we'll be looking at fucking $80, $90, $70 games, $100 games for high-end stuff, such as Activision. Dude, if you think Activision is not looking at Nintendo, you know, they're sitting in the bar, having a drink, and Nintendo and Microsoft Activision isn't sitting in the back like, yo, look at this motherfucker right here, man. They really doing it, man. They really going for it. They're willing to put it all on the line to get us in the door with these $80 video games and the ability to unshackle ourselves. If you think EA ain't sitting there to unshackle ourselves from the fucking industry standard of $60 and $70, they're willing to fucking push the envelope and break themselves for us. Like, bro, they're sitting there like, oh, glory. Oh my God, they're fucking ready. They're ready, bro. You can trust me, bro. The fucking executives at EA, Activision, Ubisoft, Ubisoft. I used to want to fucking be a developer at Ubisoft, bro. So, oh my God, dude. If you think that all of these motherfuckers aren't sitting here waiting for Nintendo to see whether or not Nintendo will be successful in this endeavor to start to push all of these things, especially as they start to catch up with like Sony and Microsoft as far as like what their console provides when it comes to online play, dog, you better best believe, dog, we're in for a terrible future. We're in for a terrible future, and I agree with the sentiment that this right here is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back when it comes to the idea that the video game industry is about to go through a crash. We're about to go through a crash from DEI wrecking the industry and wrecking studios for the past 6 years to the pricing of video games going up to $70 to now they're about to be $80, $90, $100. They're about to be variable, meaning that remakes and the idea that it's never going to be lower, it's always going to be higher. Fact. That's a fact. We don't need to see it happen. It's a fact. It's a fact. There's never been a case where a video game. Can you tell me, besides an indie project, when the fuck a video game has been $30 fucking dollars? And I don't mean EA publishing indie titles and those games cost $25, $30. I mean, can you tell me the last time a well-known, established IP or video game series has had a fucking game release and it's $30? The only time we see a reduction is if we get like some little, here's an example. The only time we get a reduction is when we have like Kingdom Hearts having a rhythm game thrown into the series, like with Melody of Memory. That's the only time you see a game come from these huge publishers where the game doesn't cost $30 and it's connected to, I mean, a game doesn't cost $60, $70, $80 and it's connected to an established IP. It has to be the case that there's a potential possibility that no one would be willing to pay for full price for the game, such as a rhythm game set within the Kingdom Hearts series. Now, that's no dig at Melody of Memory. Apparently, that game is actually a lot of fun. But I'm a shining example of someone who wouldn't pay to play a rhythm game. I didn't play that game. I just watched people that I love already, such as Everglow, play through it. I didn't play that game because I'm not interested in a rhythm game. And that's why you'll see games like that be priced at a different range, even though they're connected to an established IP. So that's the only time. But when you're expecting the typical experience from that IP, you should expect for this variable pricing, as it starts to infect the industry, to always be higher, never lower. And since it will always be higher, games are already set at $70 now. This means we're going to be dealing in the wiggle room of the $30 that reach up to $100. Because what's going to happen is, and this means you could literally see games that are probably going to be like $99, meaning after taxes, you're going to pay $100 for them. Looking at you, GTA 6. But let me know what you guys think about this. This has been your boy Mazia. Don't forget to do a little A-class gaming. Everything you do, don't forget to keep it A-class. We're in for a rude awakening, bro. And we have to stay on top of this. We have to stay on top of this, dude. Like, I'm seeing the discussion kind of start to peter out. It's kind of starting to slow down. You know, every day you will see a new release from people leading up to today, which as of today, it's the 14th of April. You kind of starting to see it kind of just barely peter out to where you're not seeing uploads from everybody every day. But we have to stay on top of this, bro. We have to. We have to. If we don't stay on top of this, we're going to be fucked, and this industry is going to implode on itself, and we'll be right back to picking up the pieces as we try to go forward. The companies, the IPs that you love will be in different form. We'll start to see like these kind of we'll start to see these kind of more artistic versions of series that we love instead of these hyper HD versions, which I think is actually a good thing. I think a crash right now is definitely what we need right now in the gaming industry. We need all of this shit to pretty much be reset. And I think we need government regulation at this point too. A lot of people are against the idea of government regulation for video games, but if the outcry from players, from gamers, from fans never is enough to ensure that these practices stop, and this all goes into people not being heard by the government, people not being heard by corporations and stuff. This all goes into all of it. Because we've been saying for years that microtransactions don't have no place in single player games, yet Ubisoft has been doing it for fucking forever, and they're now in their big boy pants era, since of course they're already on their way out to where apparently you don't even fucking own your games. Like they went from saying that as a statement to making it a matter of fact statement, to where like, hey nigga, hey, that game you love, we shutting it down, dog, and we taking it off the fucking and we taking it off the market, nigga. You won't even have it. So, and that's just the beginning of what I was telling you guys in the other video about the game key cards. Once a publisher has to pull their game off of the eShop, nigga, that card ain't gonna be worth a motherfucking thing. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace the heck out.